Hello, Medicare Advantage risk adjustment operators, innovators, and learners. Welcome to another learning series of the Hills Academy Risk Adjustment Made Easy, the Medicare Advantage kind. I am your host tutor, Dr. Prince Beua. If today is your first time joining us, we want to say welcome. If you have been with us over the year and have been studying with us, we want to also thank you so much for joining us. If you have not subscribed yet, we will encourage you to like, to subscribe, to share with others if the Heals Academy has been very instrumental to your risk adjustment work and help us to reach a wider audience as we go through this series. Today, we'll be picking up from where we had left off from the last couple weeks. Last 2 weeks, we started on the August 29th, 2024 HPMS Memo, which was a reminder to health plans regarding the rerun of the payment year 2018 risk adjustment model run with a deadline of September 30th, 2024. Last week, we looked at the April 15th, 2022 HPMS memo, which was a reminder of the existing obligation for health plans to submit accurate risk adjustment data to CMS. And today we will be picking up on the second reference memo that was in the payment year 2018 rerun. And that memo is the February 2019-2024 HPMS memo, which was the title 2024 Risk Score Rerun for the purposes of payment recovery. And as we go through this HPMS memo, it will be more of a summarized version because we just don't want this to be a very elongated lesson. But we'll take some time, look at the memo together, highlight some specific things so that at the end of the day, as a health plan, you know your obligation to submit data to CMS, particularly for this memo. It was a 2-page memo, so it's not that long. So we will start with the first page of this memo. The February 2019-2024 HPMS memo, which I have a screenshot here, has a subject 2024 Risk Score Reruns for purposes of payment recovery. So this was giving plans a heads up earlier in the year pertaining to all the overpayment reruns that were going to happen in 2024. If you look at this memo, we'll start from here. It says the purpose of this memo is to notify all Medicare Advantage plans, organizations, and other entities that submit risk adjustment data of the payment years for which CMS intends to rerun risk score for payment recovery during calendar year 2024. So pretty much what payment year reruns were going to be run in this year. And as a health plan, or as a provider, or even as a technology vendor, knowing these reruns help you plan. So this memo came out in February, so it was going to give all the reruns that are particularly going to be run this year. So knowing that, you know which data needs to be submitted, you know which data needs to be cleaned up, and therefore it helps you to pre-plan before the deadline even hits. Section 112AJD of the Social Security Act requires that overpayments received under Title 18 and 19, XVII and XIX, to which any entity is not entitled must be reported and returned no later than 60 days after it is identified by the entity. And we talked a bit about this last week, so you can check out the video from last week to learn more. Once an MA organization has identified that incorrect diagnosis data was submitted, the MA organization is responsible for deleting the incorrect diagnosis data through the established submission process for Risk Adjustment Processing System, RAPS, and for the Encounter Data Processing System, EDPS. And this is referenced in the 42 Code of Federal Regulations 422.310D2. And we touched more about this last week as well, so you can check out the video from last week. The obligation to delete incorrect diagnosis data applies regardless of whether the MA organization identifies the incorrect diagnosis data prior to the risk adjustment deadline, which open period deletes, or after. So if you identify the data before the deadline closes or after the deadline closes, as an MA organization, you're responsible to submit the deletes to cleanup. So for payment year 2018 upcoming, with the deadline of September 30th, 2024, plans are supposed to submit deletes to cleanup. And that is what this memo is informing plans of the obligation to do so. The April 15, 2022 HPMS memo, reminder of existing obligations to submit accurate risk adjustment data, which is what we touched on last week, reminds all MA organizations that submit risk adjustment data under the 42 Code of Federal Regulations 422.310 of the existing statutory, regulatory, and contractual obligations to submit accurate risk adjustment data and correct their risk adjustment data based on their best knowledge, information, and belief. The memo also noted that CMS intends to schedule reruns and adjust payment based on both closed period deletes and auditable estimates, and that CMS will provide advance notice to the MA organization regarding the scheduling of these reruns and payment adjustments. So pretty much the MA's obligation, and even if you're provided that you are submitting data to a health plan and ultimately to CMS, very likely you'll get MA plans coming back to get data to clean up to be able to go submit them to CMS for cleanup purposes. So as a provider or as a health plan or even a technology vendor, knowing these and the dates that are pertaining to these help you pre-plan so that you can better support the health plan in such an endeavor. Reruns will be completed for the following payment years in 2024. So for calendar year 2024, which is what we are in, these are the reruns that we're going to be run. So you can see here from payment years and also the service years that are pertaining to them. For example, the last one that was released, which has a deadline upcoming by the end of this month, is for payment year 2018, which is 2017 date of service. This requires that you are looking at the date of service that was in 2017, that if you received any payment that is not accurate, then you need to submit deletes that are pertaining to 2017 date of service in order for CMS to clean up this. So these were all the payment years that CMS announced earlier this year that they were going to rerun over payments pertaining to them. And CMS referenced this in the memo for payment year 2018. These reruns will include deletes from wraps and encounter data. So it's not only encounter data, so it's all still in the wraps because as at payment year 2018, dependent on wraps and encounter data. Please monitor HPMS as CMS will distribute a memo, which is what they did, that provides information regarding how to determine the status of a diagnosis on MAO for report, and this was earlier on, and the final risk adjustment data submission deadline, giving various overpayment scenarios as well as subsequent memos regarding submission deadlines, which CMS did. These reruns do not affect an organization's continued obligation to report and return overpayment within 60 days of identification of the overpayment. So CMS is stressing this because health plans have an obligation to clean up their data so that they can receive fair, accurate, complete, and timely payments. And if you have not done so, this is a payment memo to remind that you need to clean it up so that CMS rerun payments, especially for deletes. For questions relating to this memo, please email the risk adjustment policy mailbox, which is right here with the subject area in that way. This is what we have for today. I hope this was helpful, this was useful to you, and we try to keep it simple so that we don't go through into in-depth detail here. If you have any question, don't hesitate to reach out to me at info@thehillsacademy.com. And if it has been useful to you, share, comment, subscribe, and pass it on to others so that it can get a wider reach before the deadline. We have about 2 more weeks left. Also, there are vast resources on the Hills Academy website that you can check out at www.thehillsacademy.com/resources. You can download a vast amount of resources out here. If you are not on our email list and you have not received your free copy of our signature gift, I will encourage you to get your copy of our signature gift. You go to the risk adjustment tab and you put your name and your email in here and you get our signature gift, and you also get the opportunity to be on our mailing list so that you do not miss anything from us. Thank you so much for joining us again, and we will end with the last series going through some of the reference memos in the payment year 2018 rerun HPMS memo next week. Thank you again, and bye for now.